Now we've seen copy and paste in action, but what we're going to have a look at now is copying and pasting formulas and functions, and you'll see that Excel knows what we are talking about. Let's take our math sample D and look at the sales sheet. And we have a little mini table of information here. Cars, planes, bikes, north, south, east and west. And what we'd like to do is add up the total of cars sold. And we know we can do that using the sum function. So that's equals sum, open brackets, highlight our range, close the brackets and return. And we get the result. Now we could do exactly the same for planes. Equals sum, open brackets, in this case using C2, C5. However, if we were to use copy and paste back to my cars formula, now the cars formula is equals sum B2 to B5. If I were to copy that and then paste that into here, you would assume it'd want to add up B2 to B5, but it doesn't. Click onto the cell but not into the cell and use whatever your preferred method for copy is. Now we know in Excel that once you've copied you get your marching ants, so you know it's working. And then we can go to planes and enter. And we see the total is not actually adding up B2 to B5. It's given me 116, which must be adding up C2 to C5. Double click. Now this works because in essence what Excel is remembering is not the actual cell references, but their relative position to where you are at the time. So we started off here and we think the formula is equals sum B2 to B5, but actually Excel thinks of that formula as let's add up the 4 cells that are directly above me. When we then copy that formula and paste it here, it wants to do exactly the same thing. It wants to add up the 4 cells directly above it, which means, logically, if we then do another copy and paste into bikes, it then wants to add up the 4 cells above that cell, which is these 4. And as if by magic, it works. Now that will work not just vertically, but also horizontally. We know we can type a formula in here, equals sum, open brackets, those 3 cells. Now this time it's remembering not that it's adding up B2 to D2, but that it's adding up the 3 cells that are immediately to the left of me. So when we then copy that cell, and let's be confident and paste it all the way down. So I'm highlighting all 4 of those cells. And again, as we saw earlier with the paste in Excel, although I've only copied 1 cell, I can paste the contents of that 1 cell onto more than 1 cell just by selecting the cells I would like to paste into and press return. And you can see that the result is different, so something must have happened. Now we can check each formula out. That's adding up that row. That's adding up that row. That's adding up that row. And that's adding up that row, which just so happens to be our grand total. So let's copy and paste the formulas, takes the formula, pastes it into its new location, but remembers the relative path of the cell references being used. We can do exactly the same here, where there's no sum required. We're just using our multiplication operator to take the unit price of a banana and multiply it by the quantity we have purchased. And the grand total is then $3.09. Now I can take that formula and paste it into all of these cells because I'm wanting to do exactly the same. Multiply those two, etc. Paste. And we see that it works. It's the 2 cells to the left of it, multiplied by 1 cell to the left. We could do it over here. I want to add this column up. We know we can do that with AutoSum. That puts the right formula in. And then another way of copying, as we saw earlier, was to use the fill handle. Now if I do that with a formula, so I take that little corner there, drag to the right as far as I need to go, and let go, it will effectively copy and paste that formula across into these other columns. If I double click here, I can see it's picking that column up. And the same with Bob's column, double click, and it's picking up Bob's column. So the copy and paste facility is achieved through the little plus, in this case, the fill handle. And we did see that it did copy when we dealt with text and 1 single cell of numbers. Obviously, when you start mixing numbers and then dates, it will fill a series. But in this case, with formulas, it will always copy the formula into the subsequent cells. So that's copying and pasting formulas and functions.